On air.
And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of ISTR. We are on what, number 4? Number 4, and I can't keep track because I wasn't here last week because I was on vacation. It was nice. I liked it.
Welcome back, Harmon.
Thank you. Thank y'all. So on this episode, we are going to be talking about anybody?
Common misconceptions.
Common misconceptions. What everybody thinks is in the truck when they can't see in the hood, and they've been told throughout the years, what exactly is in that truck?
Yeah.
Is it a 3.8? Hell yeah, it is. You got Corvette motor in that bitch, bro? Yeah.
Where'd you get that sweet body kit?
Sears and Roebuck.
J.C. Whitney.
Whitney's too rich for me.
Yeah, so all those things we're going to discuss a little bit, as well as some other rumor mill items that have floated around over the years regarding Sci-Tie Sonoma GT trucks, and where you can find the correct information if you are ever in doubt, since that actually came up recently by a couple members wondering just some basic data and what numbers to trust. So we'll kind of clear the air on some of that stuff too later on in the episode. For those of you tuning in, haven't watched one before, ISTR, we are basically for preservation, restoration, historical facts, information, all those things related to the Cyclone, Typhoon, Sonoma trucks.
What? Time out. Take a drink, man. The bottle's just like sitting there. It's like calling your name. There you go. Take it right there. Wet your whistle. All right, let's continue.
Why am I not coming in clear?
No, it was all groggy, man. It's like you needed a drink.
Sorry, a little dehydrated. Scotch will fix that up.
Get her done.
Yeah, so common misconceptions, things like that. We'll clear the air on some other data. That's what we're all about anyway. So with that, why don't we kind of dive in? I don't know if Adam wants to take the 3.8 thing. I think you had some information on that during another episode. You think you're clear to talk, or
give me for 1 second. Let me bring up the information on the 3.8 stuff, and we'll circle back around.
Well, I was there when Scott from PAS was telling us the actual 3.8 situation and why.
I can back up. Tom or Adam. I knew one of you guys had the info on it. So Tom, you want to take some of it for now, and then see what Adam has to chime in with.
I'm digging up the info right now. So go ahead, Tom.
Okay.
I can probably back you up on some of this in a moment.
Cool. Obviously, the misconception is, oh, they're turbocharged, so they must be the 3.8 Buick motor. The common misconception, and ironically enough, we were talking to Scott. What's his last name? I can't remember.
Hold on.
Scott Kelly.
Scott Kelly, yes, who was at PAS when the trucks were being manufactured, and I actually didn't know this till he told us this at a meeting at Homecoming in Detroit. I think it was 2014, maybe, and he said that the trucks were originally slated to have a 3.8 turbo. They built one of the prototype trucks that has the Grand National wheels, has a 3.8, just rear-wheel drive, and they were slated to get that motor because it was so widely produced, and GM had so many. And literally, as the program was getting started, bodies were showing up to PAS to get built, and GM said, "No, we're not going to make this motor anymore." And so they quickly had to scramble to figure out what to put in it instead, and that's when they went with the 4.3, because that was still on the assembly line and being put in all the Blazers and the S10s, and that's why they ended up going with the 4.3, and they had to basically redesign all the stuff they had worked on till then to accommodate the 4.3 change. And literally, the way he had said it was that it was like last minute, like they had already set up fixtures, jigs, everything to go with the 3.8, And I think between all the owners, we always wondered, well, why didn't they put better pistons in them? Why didn't they make any design changes besides the few changes there are in them? And that's why, is it was very last minute. So they just scrambled to make that motor work.
That makes you wonder, why didn't they just stick with like a regular 350 TPI?
Kind of back that up. Actually, that's because the 4.3 was pretty new, and they wanted to bring it into production. So that's why they went with the 4.3.
I would also think that they'd want to keep it away from the Camaros and the Corvettes. Because 305s and 350s were the Corvette and Camaro motor. So why would you put a Corvette motor in a pickup?
But what about the biggest misconception? GM is not allowed to make anything faster than the Corvette.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's completely wrong too, because even crossing over and looking at the Turbo Trans Am, technically that was the fastest production car in 1989. It was faster than the Corvette as well. So,
and so was the Grand National or the GNX in '87.
Right.
Wasn't it just the horsepower rating that was limited on that? It couldn't be rated higher.
That they always had to put the number down lower so it couldn't be above the vets.
Right.
And that's been proven false multiple times as well. When the trucks were stock on the dyno, they were putting out way more torque than was it 360 is what the Cyclone was rated at. I want to say somebody threw out a number close to 500 on a stock truck back in the early 90s or mid 90s.
Well, that actually does bring a good misconception about how much power they make, because the numbers is one thing, and then I believe Al Dustin worked at PAS on the dyno. If I remember correctly.
I remember too, early days, Norman Ma, who passed away not too long ago. I remember him dying with his stock trucks, and he was making like 305, 310, 315, somewhere in that area.
I remember Al Dustin saying that they never saw a truck make less than 300 horsepower, and the range was huge. That 280 was the listed number, and he said that they never saw a truck make less than 300, and they had some trucks that were approaching 400.
Was that at the wheels or was that at the crank?
Crank.
Okay.
Crank. And then the same thing, like you said about the torque, is that they were rated at 350, and I think it was just for the poster numbers, not competitive stuff. But he said that most all of them were making more than 400 foot-pounds of torque out of the box.
Which why everybody hates 700 R4s now, because no matter what you do to them, they're just not going to hold.
Yep.
They will in a Corvette, Camaro, whatever, that have tires that can break loose, but when you stick it with all-wheel drive, the weakest link is in the middle of that sandwich, and it's the transmission. So,
and number 6 ringlands.
That's a separate issue with intake design, but
I say that out loud, son bitch.
And actually, to go along with that, just to back up too, everyone thinks that the transfer case is a weak point, and it's really not. That our stock transfer case can hold some serious horsepower before it starts to show weakness.
Yep.
I mean, Harmon, your Blurple truck was doing what, 700-800 horsepower?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, look at Robert's truck.
Robert's truck?
As far as I know, he's still pulling stock transfer case, and
Frank's
he's in that thing. So whatever ponies you got to put up to put the truck into 8s.
Frank's from Auto Addictions, stock transfer case.
Yeah. Look at all the LS swap trucks.
My white Typhoon, stock transfer case.
Even Animal's 402 twin GT35R LS motor, that's still got a stock transfer case, and I think
stock front diffs too.
Yeah. So transfer case is not a weak point. The front diff has a couple weak points, but you're not going to necessarily blow one up. It's weak due to the fact that it's 25 years old.
I've only seen one person blow up a front diff.
I've seen that same person blow up 3 of them.
Right there.
It isn't related to power either.
Yeah, no, I think mine was related to abusive autocrossing that I did.
I think it was related to you ran out of fluid.
No, honestly, I think the viscous locked up, and then it went downhill from there.
It was tough from there.
I from everything I've seen and that I can figure out, that if a diff is going bad, more likely than not, the viscous collection transfer case is shot. Because the viscous will ruin the front diff, and everybody thinks the other way around. Everybody says, "Oh no, that front diff's got an issue, or the joint's pulling out, or whatever." It's like, no, it's the viscous. Yep. The VC is the culprit of that situation,
And
lack of changing the oil in it.
It's got oil in it.
Well, if you read the original Typhoon manual, it says to change the transfer case oil every 25,000 miles.
Really?
Yep.
Damn.
Just put grease in it.
I was just using rear diff fluid. That shit works good.
W140.
No man, 80 weight Rotella. It's like molasses.
It's run T6 and everything.
So not to digress too far, because we tend to do that. So that's the 3.8 thing, Corvette motor.
Corvette motor is just that everybody thinks that's what's in it. There's no fact. There's no. It's all fiction. There's no rhyme or reason. Everybody just assumes that's what it is. I've pulled up to many, not even car shows, just cruise nights, and automatically it's, oh, that's the truck that's got the Corvette motor. Nope.
Now the one that I loved hearing before is, you know, if they were to put a 3.8 in it, they had to push the firewall back because there wasn't enough room for it to fit.
I've heard that.
I've heard that too. I was like, what?
Yeah, you know, because you're not going to stick a 60-degree V6 in places where you can stick a V8. You know,
Yeah. When the truck body style came with a 2.8 for many years.
Yeah, I do.
Yep.
But of all the misconceptions, to be honest with you, for me, the 3.8 is the most forgivable because it actually does have some historical foundation.
It's got a lot of
the prototypes are made with it.
Yep.
You know, there was the S10 that had the GN wheels on it that had the 3.8 in it. So there is some viable information floating out there that does state that there was a 3.8 in the Cyclone at one point. Pre-production, true, but production trucks were all 4.3s. And they were all single turbo as well, despite another rumor of twin turbo.
We weren't twin turbo?
Cycles coming from the factory.
How come Tom's has twin turbos?
I think my favorite overall is when you're at a car show with the hood up, and I've had this multiple times. Someone walks up and goes, "Oh, that thing's supercharged," and you're like, "No, it's turbo." No, that's supercharged. No, it's turbo. It even says 4.3 turbo.
Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take my turbo housing cover off. I'm gonna put supercharged engraved in the front of it.
Get the top plate remade with 3.8 supercharged.
Oh, epic!
That just ruined everybody's day.
Yes, Series 2 4300 Buick motor.
I do have an intake that says 4.8 on it.
You do. I've seen it.
I do, for real.
Adam brings up another thing that always comes up, you know, even amongst some of our own members, is about the what else the intake says. In fact, that they all say Cyclone, even the ones that are in the Typhoons. It's because they never made another casting. They just reused the same casting when the Typhoons were built, and that's probably just due to cost and obviously all the other changes that went on between PAS and GM at the time. I can only assume that it wasn't beneficial to make a new casting, especially with the cancellation of the 92 Cyclone and probably the crap that spun into PAS's wheels as they were going. And so there was no Typhoon intake. There have been some, myself included, that have gone and gotten the CNC milled plates that say Typhoon and grafted them into older existing cyclone intakes, but they're not factory. They all say cyclone, no matter what you want to believe. They all came out of the factory saying cyclone on it.
They did?
They did.
Every
Wow.
Typhoon has a motor swap cyclone because they
Right.
are cyclone.
Yeah.
Actually, Mark, what you said was, I think the most accurate was that because they canceled the 92 Cyclone because there's supposed to be one, they had already made the parts.
Right.
You know, so I think they just used what they had because the contract was on such shaky ground.
So something interesting that I've found over the years, and I can never find fully solid information on this, but the lower the VIN number, especially on the cyclones and the typhoons as well, the lower the VIN number, the more shallow the cyclone etching is, or the CNC. The higher the VIN number, it starts to get deeper. I've never had a clear-cut answer. I mean, obviously there's a tooling change, but it's just
I don't think it's totally changed. I think the intake's a little taller.
that'd be an interesting one to find out then and measure, because I mean mine.
Or the mold sucked, and the more they poured out of it, the deeper it got.
Deeper.
I mean, because mine is as you can't even put a dime into it. It won't. A dime won't fall into it. That's
And your truck is what, 0237?
correct. And I know when Rob Turgeon had his truck, which is 226, same way, real shallow.
You know, you told me that years ago, and you got me hooked on it. Now any truck that comes to the shop, I have to see.
Yep.
And there is anomalies. I've noticed some anomalies, but for the most part, you're right.
Right.
The lower number ones tend to have shallower. There's some anomalies. I've seen some that were later ones that got a shallow intake or whatever. But yeah, it does hold.
We're getting blown up with other facts.
Okay, go.
There were
You're getting blown? You lucky.
members chimed in that the prototype intakes were blank. Yes, that is true. We didn't really get into that too much, but yes, there are blank intakes out there. They were not in production, but there are prototype non-production intakes that are blank. They don't say Cyclone. They don't say 4.3 turbo. It's just
I got one in the other room if somebody wants to see it.
Yeah. If you're grabbing it at some point.
You know, I did hear another rumor a long time ago. I don't know how, accurate it is. And I don't know if Tom can hear me. Oh, look at that. He's so sexy walking away. Hello, Tom. Can you hear me? Oh, he can't hear me. He's like 3 buildings away now.
Yeah, he's gone.
We just passed 45 Typhoons going to get that intake.
Yeah, we made sweet hugs back there.
So anyway, before I rudely interrupted with more information, what were you talking about?
Oh, hey. Hey.
Hey, look at that. So
Hey, the cyclone.
there is the prototype intake that does not have any of the cyclone etching on it.
No cyclone etching. It had the EGR plate isn't drilled out. The bolt holes are in there and threaded, but there's no cutouts for the EGR.
So that was machine 2.
What's the cast date, Tom?
Cast date is 5/1 of 90.
Nice.
And this one has a threaded hole on the side for a boost gauge when they were doing testing.
Interesting.
Sick.
Very cool.
There's your history.
Hey, I got before you walk away, Tom. Wait, don't go nowhere. Hey, lovely. So there was a rumor a long time ago. I heard that all the Cyclone and Typhoon center caps, originally before they were machined, were all painted orange. Now
That's true.
I've pulled a bunch off, and they've been orange on the backside. What the hell is going on?
It's a brighter red. It's red. I've never seen an orange one.
It's like bright orange red.
It's bright for sure, but I've only seen the Cyclone ones. The Typhoon ones were never painted. Because I think the way they did it was.
You think they painted it and then machined it?
Yeah, and trying to refinish the wheels and trying to mimic the originals, they painted the whole thing, they cast it, then painted it, and then machined the face.
That makes sense.
And the backsides are never consistent. They're just kind of splashed over, and it's mostly like overspray. Like they just and then they cut it. And the Cyclone's red.
This is totally unrelated, but when I was in high school, I had a summer job polishing Stanley hammerheads, and worked at a small factory near Statesboro. But anyway, that's how the hammerheads would come to my station. They would already be cast. They would be painted black, and it was to help the polisher realize what had and had not been polished.
So your job is knob polisher?
You were right.
So your job was basically a knob polisher?
I was a head polisher.
He's a professional knob polisher.
Yeah.
I would definitely put that on my resume for the next job.
I think we just found the title for Michael Hood's ISTR card.
I ain't gonna lie, I was badass at it.
And this podcast just went rated R.
And if I know, and if we know anything about Hood, he probably still is.
I saw a bird.
So, all right. Prototype castings. What else do we got there? We got any other comments on there, Morgan?
On that, no. It was just just wanted to. I guess they wanted to put their 2 cents in on that, and that was from a longtime member. I don't know if they want to be named or not. So,
No.
they bring up a valid point that they weren't all saying Cyclone.
Now, why does a Cyclone Typhoon have different fueling rails?
I don't know.
Mainly because the fuel lines are different.
You think so?
Well, I know the fuel lines are different. I don't know why. I don't know why that difference is there. I mean, the fuel tanks are different. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there.
It makes you think, why did they go through that great expense of making different fuel rails when they could have just taken some more $10 worth of rubber hose and made it a little bit longer?
I wonder if it really does have to boil down to the fuel rails and how they run along the body and the frame rail and how it comes with the firewall. I mean, Tom's shaking his head no, but that's something, I don't know.
From the doors forward,
It's all the same.
Blazers, S10s, 2 doors, 4 doors, extended cabs, they're all the same. So if you put a Cyclone fuel rail on a Typhoon and run the Cyclone fuel line, it'll fit. Because all the bends up to the joint at the transfer case are exactly the same, Cyclone or Typhoon. The only difference is the Typhoon or the Cyclone has that the extension. It's 6 inches longer to reach the middle port on the fuel rail because the Cyclone one's in the middle.
So it makes you think if you fuel rate flow both of them side to side, do you think they fucked up on the Cyclone and they're like, oh, the Typhoon's way better if it flows better?
Well,
It might
have been?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, could it have been a recommended change that the Typhoons got? I mean, something beneficial that they thought.
Never thought about it that way, but it makes sense because it would equalize the pressure across the injectors that way better.
Did it have anything, this is reaching, did it have anything to do with the L35 head?
No, it wouldn't. Could be from serviceability. I know I've seen a bunch of TSBs to put out by companies in relation to how easy it is to service something, and they make mid-year changes to accommodate that. Although it's not necessarily difficult to take the fuel line off a Cyclone.
No, you know what it is? It's not hard to take the fuel line off either one. It's a way more of a pain in the ass to move the intake or valve cover or anything with that extra 6 inches of fuel line in the way because it's a hard line. Yeah. On the Cyclone, it's a way bigger bitch. Whereas a Typhoon just sits up against the firewall and you can do whatever you need to do. But that if you have the fuel lines and you're trying to pull a motor or pull an intake, that's just hanging out. You can't fucking move it. It's hard lined. So that might make sense.
Now, how come? All right, how come all the damn trucks didn't come with black GMC letters? That shit drives me nuts. I want black GMC letters.
I've got a set.
Sets.
So I heard that was kind of an internal argument between PASS and GM, where PASS wanted to distinguish the Cyclone Typhoon from the standard line, and they wanted black letters, and GM said, no, do 'em red and deal with it. And some trucks got out early on with black, and then they all switched to red.
I think I remember reading a GM memo on actually the change of that, where they were having an argument back and forth on the color of it.
Well, Scott, at that same event that Scott was talking about, the 3.8 versus the 4.3 situation, he talked about that too. And he had said that GM, I think I might have it flipped around because the way I remember it, it was the other way around. GM put black letters on them.
Okay.
And because kind of going after the Grand National look of the 87, all blacked out. And they said, why would you black out your letters? Like, this is supposed to be like a premium high-end truck. Why would you want to take your brand and black it out? Don't you want that to stand out? And they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And we should switch that.
Let's make that shit reflective. Boom.
So that's the story. That's what he had said, you know, and if I'm remembering it correctly, that it was definitely a discussion, and there was a battle. Like they wanted it black, and they were like, why would you make your badge, your name black on the truck? And they were like, yeah, that makes no sense. And they switched it back over to the standard letters.
Now, could you imagine? All right, you're sitting in this multi-million-dollar freaking huge headquarters, and you're sitting in your big chair, your big huge desk, and you just got this thought, you know, I don't like letters. No. You think you'd have much bigger problems than, do I want red letters? No. You're going to change those to red. I don't like black.
Well, you know what? But GM has been notorious for that, for stuff like that, because we all agree the black letters look better. But they did the same thing with the Grand Nationals and the T-types, because the early T-types, I think, if I remember correctly, the early T-types and the turbo Ts had blacked out trim, black bumpers, and they were $2,000 or $3,000 cheaper than a Grand National, but they had all the badass looking parts. And they were like, oh shit, we didn't differentiate this enough because they were selling better than the Grand National, so they put the chrome bumpers back on it, and then the Grand National only had the black bumpers. So GM's done that before, where they didn't really think it through, and it was like, you know, after it came out and they saw sales or something affected it, they were like, oh shit, we should change this.
Yeah, you gotta think, why they make such a drastic dumb move like that. Like, a black bumper is way cheaper than chroming that bitch.
Well, and it's funny, like, as far as we're talking performance cars, same thing. We're going to the Buicks. The Grand National wheels are shiny, you know, they're the chromish. They weigh like 5 times as much as the turbo Buick with the T-type wheels, because they're just really light, almost forged aluminum.
And there's that guy,
but they weigh like a forged wheel does.
And there's that guy sitting at that big ass desk making those decisions who has no freaking clue.
They did it like, well, no, we're going to make it fancier because it's more expensive, except the wheel weighs twice as much.
Oh,
so
well.
It's interesting what drives those decisions. So, all right, back to misconceptions.
So another misconception: did the Sonoma GTs, and was it the only Sonoma GTs that came with aluminum bumper supports?
No.
Because I've seen that posted many, many times. Oh, I want a Sonoma GT bumper support because they're aluminum.
I've seen Typhoons with them, and I've seen Black with them.
Here it is. Sonoma GT was 92.
Mm-hmm.
Only the 92 Typhoons had aluminum bumper supports from the factory. There was some overlap in the early to late, but all the Cyclones had steel. The 92s had aluminum, most of them, and then the 93s had steel again. But also the 92 Sonoma GTs had the aluminum supports.
So does that make 92s more valuable now?
I don't know about that. That's just a...
For scrap value, yeah, because that's pretty much what you're going to do in 92. So. Oops. Anyway.
They offset the weight savings with the door cushions.
You're such a high racist, I swear.
Yeah, they haven't lightened them up for that plastic shit they put on the doors.
I kept the scratches away, man.
I don't dislike them. It just on some trucks they don't belong. I have a set that I don't want to sell because I might use them on something in the future. I don't know.
Well, have you ever thought of this? If you've got Burger King hands, it's really simple to open the door. You put your thumb on top of it and then pop it open. But if you got like man hands, you can't even get like 2 fingers up in that bitch.
Literally and figuratively.
I don't dislike them. I just hate them.
Quote unquote Adam Ribicoff.
Real talk with Adam.
Yep. In our closing statements for the meeting, what did we learn tonight? That Adam doesn't just dislike them; he hates them.
Not only a member, he's also a client. And, our viewer that chimed in earlier was the one and only Mike Renz as well with the intake comment. So he said he wasn't shy, and so I figure I'll name drop him now.
I've got Renz's shaft. I don't know about you guys.
I got Renz's shaft.
Renz has stroked my shaft many times.
Yeah.
That just
his shaft has gotten around. Anyways,
I love the shaft. It's long and black and firm.
Mm-hmm.
And it tightened up my truck.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's not the only thing you tightened up.
made that shit pucker.
Anyway, what else you got, Carmen, for misconceptions?
Misconception. Let's see.
Why didn't they come with a stick?
Ah, yes.
Can you get one with a stick?
Yeah, I want a manual. Damn
The
it.
blow-off valve manufacturer was out of stock, so they just went with an automatic.
Well, somebody had just posted that the other day. There was a truck for sale, and the question that was asked was, it was a manual transmission, and I had to laugh at it. I mean, I didn't comment on it. I wasn't going to be a dick. I just thought it was funny that was the question that was asked about. I don't know whether it was a Cyclone or a Typhoon that was listed, but none of them are manual transmissions.
It is, again, a somewhat forgivable misconception because in a world of trucks that had column shifters, you suddenly see one that has a booted shifter in the middle of the console. And I can see people poking through the window like, damn, that truck's got a manual transmission. So, again, somewhat forgivable, but totally unbased.
You mean it's got a
There have
Corvette
been some
transmission?
trucks that have been swapped, but
Yeah.
there's very few that have benefited from it. Adam's Pikes Peak hill climb truck, I believe.
Yeah, the
Everything up there.
Mutant side had a T56.
Yeah, Mutant Sci has a T56 in it, but that truck's
Adam-
also turbocharged and supercharged, so
Adam
totally another
Auerbach.
thing that has to worry about. So.
Yeah, Adam Auerbach has he has a Tremec.
Yeah, he's got a Tremec T56 in his.
Mike Renz again had a truck that was 5-speed swapped.
So did Harmon, because Harmon owned that truck.
I own that truck.
You got it afterwards, and I don't remember if I ever drove in it or not, but I know Mike was saying that it was
sucked to drive.
Yeah, it was considerably slower. You couldn't boost launch with it. By the time you shifted gears, you were dropping out of the power band.
Terrible. Simply terrible.
Yeah,
Well, also the trannies that were available at the time couldn't hold the torque,
right.
and
And
the-
none of those.
But it was a Corvette transmission.
and the gear ratios were terrible for that.
Yeah, and any of the performance transmissions, the 5 or 6 speeds, none of them were designed to be mated up to a 4-wheel drive transfer case or all-wheel drive transfer case. So,
But it was a Corvette.
I will say that Tyler Stevens is phony. The red Typhoon, the red Blazer,
right.
2-wheel drive, 4.3 turbo with a T56 is a ball to drive. It is so much fun, and highway cruising in 6th gear is magical. So with a rear-wheel drive, it is definitely fun. You know, for performance, it's definitely not there, but for a cruiser and enjoyment, it's pretty cool.
Okay. All right. So, colors. Is there a Bahama blue?
Movie.
Where is the Bahama blue?
Personally, I feel it doesn't exist.
What?
Yep.
Gotta-
Along
gotta-
with the silver one that supposedly was spotted in England, I want to say probably 10 years ago now, and has never been seen again. I'm either guessing it was not a Typhoon or it was a repaint if it did exist, because it's never popped up anywhere on the other side of the ocean by anybody's eyes ever again.
You mean there's There's no truck out there, Bahama Blue.
There could be.
You
It could be repaint,
Factory.
but not from the factory.
I don't think a Bahama Blue exists.
mean after going through all the build sheets and stuff, we didn't find one that said there's a Bahama Blue?
Well, we can go into that a little bit. It wouldn't be on the build sheets because none of the raspberries are listed as the raspberry RPO.
What?
The
They are-
radars aren't either.
Yeah, radars aren't either.
Don't hurt my feelings on radars. That one will be mine one day.
So
We share the same
I
name.
know one of the
Dennis and Dennis.
raspberries was originally a white.
Yep.
I don't remember off the top of my head what one of the other raspberries were. Actually, you know what? One of the radars started out as a royal.
No way. I didn't know that.
Yeah, one of the 93 radars started out as a royal gray.
I believe that's the one that's in Texas. That's
With Dennis. With Dennis.
Yeah, one of the
Dennis
radars
Dennis'
is a
truck.
royal. So the 93 radar is a royal.
So is there now? Now everybody says there's two of them. We've only seen one. Where's the other?
I think there's 2 raspberries and 2 radars, as far as I can gather.
Right, but both raspberries, I believe, are 92s, correct?
Remember?
yes.
And I think there's 192 radar and 193 radar.
Yeah.
Well, I know Dennis is a 92.
I don't want to start making more rumors to the rumor mill, but I think that's how it lays out.
We're
But
supposed to be defining misconceptions, not adding to them.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that earlier, though, so I wasn't doing fact check on that. So just
So
call me Donald Trump for the night, and I'm just going
Facts.
to
There's 2 and 2.
the fact is, we know that there is two raspberries. They've been physically seen. That we know they're there. Fact is, we know there is one radar
For sure.
for sure, but nobody's seen the other one.
I think the second one exists, but I'll go with what you say, Homer.
Because you think that bitch been found by now. Wow.
So let's lay it on the table for anyone that's a new owner. Cyclones. All production Cyclones were black, and that's including the Marlboros. All production trucks rolled off the assembly line black. There was no other color.
What about the white one?
Challenge trucks, were they originally black?
The challenge trucks aren't Cyclones. They're
That's right.
So that's why I say the key is all production trucks were black.
Why you got twist the words?
Because that's the way it is. Because everyone thinks the Marlboros were red, and they're not. They were pulled from production, painted red, because they have black firewalls and they have all the markings that they were painted red. So, because there's been red prototypes. I mean, you have the 4.3 SS green prototype. But all production trucks, there's no other color in the Cyclone that came other than black. That was it.
Now, I heard as a rumor, one of the mule trucks that they were using was actually blue, but it got wrecked like the third day he was out driving it.
I can't talk. I don't know about that.
Well, one of the mule trucks, I believe, was wrecked, and then there was another one that was actually stolen and recovered.
But now these are all mules and prototypes. These are all pre-production now.
Right. So
there was even the Cyclone that was one half was red and the other half was red gray.
Oh yeah, I remember that truck. And there's pictures of that truck too.
Yep. Pictures with Scott Kelly standing next to it.
Yep.
But going back to the colors and everything else, as far as the Bahama goes, Bahama Blue was actually a production color, but not for side ties. It actually became a standard color in '94 on the S10. So if you want to look at and see what a Bahama Blue S10 looks like, just look up '94 Bahama Blue S10 and imagine that on a side tie, and that's what the color would be. The color does exist. The paint code is not hard to get. You could make your own, but don't go claiming that it's real because we already have all the paperwork on all the other trucks, and none of the information points to a prototype, test color, any way you want to word it, Bahama Blue Typhoon being out there. Same with the silver truck, whatever you want to call that. I think it's all just rumor mill. If it did exist, it's been under hiding since 92 or 93 since it's been created, and nobody's ever seen it. So that's my piece on that. So
Well, you got to break my heart.
sorry.
I'm gonna go hold bed crying tonight.
And as far as accurate number of colors and all that stuff, go visit Wikipedia. It's the easiest place to get the numbers for, simply because we've all gone through, the 5 of us have collaborated and edited and gone through to make sure. In fact, I just re-edited the Sonoma GT colors with updated stuff. I have no idea when that entry was made, but the numbers were off a little bit. There was less of one and more of another, and I went and re-edited that fairly recently because I noticed one day randomly checking out some numbers that somebody had posted on a truck that they were selling, that their numbers were off and it didn't sound right. And sure enough, they must have pulled it off of Wikipedia, and Wikipedia was wrong at that time. And I went back and fixed it. So Sonoma GT, Cyclone, all that stuff, all the numbers on there should be accurate as far as truck colors, totals, and numbers of them made. So
the rumor of they discontinued the Cyclones and they had all the leftover parts, so they're like, yeah, let's just make a Sonoma GT. What do you think?
I think it's more of a price point.
Yeah.
The Cyclone was expensive back in the day.
Well, the marketing material from that era goes as far as to say that,
Yep.
Basically half the price almost.
So you can get a truck that looks like a Cyclone, has the interior of one, but half the cost.
Yep.
And none of the power.
And no balls.
Morgan, going back to what you were just saying, you want to also touch on that misconception of which list of production number and truck number is actually the truth, because there's been a few interactions with people believing one list versus another list, and I guess we should put that to rest.
The Cyclones were all black, so they were all created in order. Their serial numbers, from everything that we've seen, the serial number, production number, and VIN number are all the same for the Cyclones. On the Typhoons and possibly the Sonoma GTs, I've never really given it much thought. I would assume possibly their true production number, what may be on a certificate if you are original owner of one that may have that info on there, may vary from what the last 4 digits of your VIN number are, which we all use to differentiate truck number or what truck is from another truck, simply because that information is not readily available. And unless you are an original owner, you're probably not going to be privileged to that information. So for the most part, Cyclone VIN, Cyclone production number are a match. The Typhoons might not be. I was given information probably about 15 or 16 years ago on my truck, and the supposed true production number was nowhere near what my actual VIN number is. I've never really verified it further than that. I kind of took it for fact at the time because the person that told me it was very very knowledgeable, had a lot of information at their fingertips, and seemed to have the inside track on all that stuff. But it really doesn't matter. For
I've got one that I got one I got to put to bed. Okay.
Hold on. Let Morgan finish his thought. Hold that thought.
For all intents and purposes, the last 4 digits of your VIN number are what everybody uses to differentiate what truck number you have. If better information does ever come about that we can put out there, solid fact, 100%, this is everybody's truck number that's different from your VIN number, we'll throw it out there. We have all the information, but nothing is screaming at us as far as being true production number for Typhoons. So
the last 4 digits are taken as your production number for the Typhoon, and actually for all the trucks.
And that's supposedly because the trucks are pulled off the line or put back on the line, painted different colors throughout the process of assembly. So where they ended up, how they came off, how they were painted, how they were put back on, I really don't know. But
Yeah.
that's
And
what
there's
we would like to do.
there's so much variance that the only true consistent thing is the last four of the VIN. So.
Yeah. And I don't remember off the top of my head whether it was 100 trucks or 240 trucks, but if you look at all the productions for the production totals for all the 92 Typhoons, they didn't make a color other than black until way down the line. Like they had pumped out, I want to say 240 sticks in my head, but it might be something a little bit different than that. They pumped out over 200 Typhoons that were all black in 92 before they made any other color change. And I think that first truck was a white gray. But it wasn't 200 and something other 92 Typhoons that came out that were all black.
It was a couple hundred trucks that started black.
Yeah.
So sure.
They want to put a little color in there.
Okay,
so,
Harmon.
What's your other thing that you need to put to bed there?
That the 1991 Cyclone #1 was not destroyed. It's the 1992 Cyclone #1 that is destroyed and sitting with a beautiful picture crunched up in a junkyard. 91 is not.
And I know where it is.
Yes, sir.
This is true.
And it's not in a basement in Michigan.
No.
Rotting away in a junkyard.
No, that's in the back room too. I'm going to grab that.
Also, one of the 92 Cyclone brochure trucks exists, and Hood used to actually own it.
The black gray. Yep.
You know the part that really irritated me is they got that beautiful Cyclone brochure that, you know, breaks down all the brakes and the tires and the Borla exhaust. Where the hell did that damn truck bed go? That thing was pimp.
Yeah. The PPG has something similar to that.
Yeah, it's got the lift back to put the tops in the Targas.
Yeah. No. PPG.
Yeah, the PPG. Sorry.
PPG has that trifold, and the one in the picture has the trifold cover, and it's bad to the bone.
But the PPG one, the tailgate is part of the
bed cover,
and it's insanity. If anyone ever gets a chance to see the PPG in person, and you can lift up the tailgate in the bed, it blows your mind.
Yeah, it was built. Yeah, it was crazy, and even the roof with the grafted in lights. So that truck's bad.
I will say this, Adam, you brought up the 92 black gray. We tore that truck apart, rebuilt the engine, rebuilt the transmission, turbo, went through all that stuff. There was a lot of weird stuff on that truck and I've torn apart a bunch of 91s, but just unusual things. And I documented them all, and I have to pull all that information out off of an old hard drive. But like the compressor cover on the turbo was some sort of blend between a 20G prototype and an old 17C. It had totally different bosses, markings, everything. Stuff was ground down. There were markings on the firewall, all kinds of stuff that were different than all the 91s. It was a very unusual truck, and a lot of the parts on it were pre-91 production. So it's almost like they had a prototype stash somewhere, and they're like, hell, let's build this truck. And they didn't take any of the production stuff to do it. It was very unusual.
Good to know.
Street the same though.
Hood, where's that truck now? Do you know?
Waller.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, at least we know where it is. So.
Sitting in air on a lift for no joke, probably like the last 10 years. I don't think it's been moved.
Look at the look on that face right there. See that look?
Whose face?
He knows who it is.
That truck, I will say this. If anybody ever does get that, well, I'll get that truck if it ever becomes for sale. But anyway, that truck is not as original as it once was. And many of us have parts off of that truck because of its notoriety.
My transmission has stayed together ever since I took the transmission pan off of it and put it on mine.
Yeah, it
must be made of titanium or kryptonite or something.
It had different injectors, and I have those. So it has actually 91 Cyclone injectors in it now, but it had some unusual stuff.
Interesting.
One other thing I want to touch on as well is the rumor mill as far as how many of these trucks actually still exist. Nobody knows. We, ISTR, are trying to slowly piece together that answer.
2,422. I dare anybody to prove me wrong.
I've seen all sorts of numbers, percentages, estimations, fractions, anything you can throw at it. I've seen over the years, some of them may be close. Nobody knows.
I think the only like true number you can base it off of would be like the old Jimmy's graveyard.
Well, that's one thing we have to go back through, and that's where we need the help of the entire sci-fi community to try and eventually get that number narrowed down. Now, our plan is to not only use the information that has been posted over the years, trucks that we know have either been parted, destroyed, wrecked, so on and so forth, and nix them off the list. And then once we get all the information that we have readily available to go through, we actually want to go and literally try to possibly run something like either a Carfax or something like that on every single truck, every VIN number that we have, to see if possibly they have been registered, because every so often somebody will post up that they spotted a truck. And somebody just made one the other day. I was going to look up their name and give them credit for it, but I commented on it that they did a great job, because not only did they get a picture of the truck, they also went up to and got a picture of the VIN number through the windshield. So, and that, I did look it up, and I believe it was a previously unknown truck, one that was not in the what is currently the Sport Machines database that is still in the registry, that we're still kind of going off of and updating every so often. But we're working on a new registry that we hopefully can record and better catalog all this information of what trucks still exist, what ones we are for sure don't exist, and which ones are still in limbo that are just going to be listed as a question mark until we try to get a closer number. We may never know the exact number of these trucks are left, but if we can at least get rid of the ones that we know don't exist, prove the ones we do exist, and then find out some of the ones that are at least registered and either aren't on the internet, squirreled away in a garage somewhere, in a museum, in somebody's collection, in another country. So for those guys that are overseas, if you're watching this, and we don't have your number on record, I know there were some guys over in New Zealand that had just posted, and I was going to give them a shout out too. I was going to write those down. I'll have to get you guys on the next podcast. But you guys that are overseas that are collecting, keeping, restoring these trucks, that information is important. If you see any others that are out and about in your neck of the woods, by all means, try to get as much information as you can off of them. And for those of you in the state that spot a truck, if you can't stop and get the VIN number, take a clear picture of it. If you can possibly get a license plate, anything like that, that might clue us into at least maybe getting a VIN number, or at least giving us the ability to do a Carfax by a plate and figuring out which truck it is. We're not going to display or list anybody's personal information. We're just basically going to throw in the database as, hey, this truck was seen on June 25th of whatever, and it was still alive. So we know that it's actual truck, and we can verify that it still existed, and we can put that on the plus side of trucks that actually still exist out there. So we want to try and get down to how many trucks still exist, and that will also help increase our value of our truck as well, because if we have a better idea that, hey, there were 2,293 Typhoons built, but only 1,500 of them still exist in the world, that theoretically should increase the value of those 1,500 trucks that are still left. So
I also think that in time, with everybody's help and the whole community and everything we're trying to do as ISTR, will help existing owners and prospective owners make better, more informed decisions of, where values are, but also where did this truck come from? What has been done to it? What it looked like 3 years ago, 5 years ago, last year. So that way people know what they're getting into, because that's the counterpoint to the ones that do exist, is that they've, changed hands. They're 25 years old. That history of them would be very helpful. So,
But,
and I was going to say, as we close up here, do the five of us want to speculate how many trucks do still exist? If there was, let's say, for argument's sake, 7,700 total trucks, how many still exist?
I think you lose 2% every year. So if somebody wants to do the math on that, that's my guess.
So you lose 140 every year for the last 25 years?
The first year, and then 2% of the remainder the next year. So
I was trying to simplify it, okay, Hood?
that sounds like a lot of math that I want to do right now.
Yeah, that's why I was going with the 140.
Hold on, let me think.
150 times 25.
Well, I would say of 7,700 made, there's probably about 5,400 left.
I'm gonna do the math.
Do the math. What? Anybody else want? Adam, what's your guess on how many are left?
Somewhere, what the hell is going on? Sorry, my cat was.
You need to shave, bro.
Yeah, right.
Shave your cat.
Your cat or your wife?
I've got cats all, I mean, there are cats here, and then there's cats there behind there. So, my guess, yeah, I mean, in the 5,000 range, whether it be low 5,000s, mid or high, in the 5,000s.
I'm going 5,700.
Yeah, my guess is going to be in the 5,000s. I'll go right in the middle, 5,500.
And this is all speculation, everyone. Like this is
speculation of our own.
Harmon,
we'd like to get to the bottom of it. So, if you as a viewer are curious as to how many trucks are still left, help us out. Spread the word. I mean, that's why we made the Storm Spotter cards, to try and get other people involved. You can help us just by finding a truck out there. Maybe it's been recorded once, maybe it's been sold on eBay once, and nobody really, was involved with it on the forum in the Facebook group or anything like that. Or maybe it was owned years ago and nobody's seen it in 10 years. That still helps us out. Even if it's been a previously known truck and we assumed it still, existed, but nobody's seen it in a long time. Now we can kind of update that and refresh that database with more recent pertinent information. So, and then at some point, we are going to need people to actually crunch numbers and do some hard database work, entry, research, and, going through information and record it. So once we get the new registry up, we're probably going to throw a post out there saying that, ISTR needs you, and we'll see what we can do to hopefully compensate some of those people for their time. But it's going to be more than the five of us can handle. We already know that. We've been discussing this for over a year since we started ISTR, that we're going to need a lot more help when it comes down to this section of it, to the nitty gritty, how many trucks still exist out there. And that's really a huge part of what ISTR is. We want to know that number. That's really the big cloud, the big question mark that has loomed over these trucks for many, many, many years. We know all the colors now. We know all the truck numbers and what colors they are. Now we want to know how many trucks still exist. So,
Harmon.
Yo.
Did you figure it out?
I did.
What was it?
Not enough.
I will go with that answer.
My ADD is like kicking in. Anybody notice behind Morgan, his truck, part of his truck is missing?
Yes.
That's why I covered it up.
Every time I look, I'm like, dude, where'd your truck go?
What are you talking about?
Dude, where's my truck?
He's doing a fuel pump swap.
Yeah.
But the tire's still in the wheel well.
Fuel pump swap on a fuel pump swap on a Duramax because it's in the tank.
So on that note,
we sprinkle a little salt on it. It shrunk.
So so on that note, we certainly hope that you enjoyed the podcast, and I know we put a post out the other day asking for other topics, and the where are they now OG topic has definitely gained some traction. It's definitely one that we had discussed previously. We want to do it. Obviously, we're going to do a little bit of legwork and see maybe we can get some volunteers to either come out of the woodwork and possibly either be a special guest or maybe just get some information on them so we can kind of update the world as to where they are. We definitely have some names. We threw out some, I think, last week just in our reminiscing of, or 2 weeks ago in our reminiscing of past events and dumb shit we've done. So it is definitely a topic we want to do along with LS swaps and possibly the 92 versus 93 debate.
I miss Dig.
So we'll, yeah.
I miss Dig.
There's a lot of people that we definitely miss for various reasons, whether they've sold their truck or unfortunately have passed away. But we would like to touch on all of those things and make it a nice topic one day. So for those of you that are new to the community, you'll possibly be a little bit lost, but some of the stories that hopefully we can share with them and contributions that they've given to the community over the years, because back when these trucks were new, there were a lot of people coming up with some innovative stuff that we look upon now and be like, oh, it was so simple, and maybe we don't do it anymore because we've kind of learned from those things or progressed into better stuff, especially with, different technology and things being out there now. But at the time they were pretty innovative and they were a pretty good group of guys that kind of started out with these trucks. So we'd like to touch on all that stuff as well. So
can I toss in one more thing?
No.
My salad?
Just one more. It's very important. Everybody needs to keep in mind we are 6 weeks away from Carlisle. 5 weeks away from Carlisle. 5 weeks. 5 weeks. If we meet a truck count of 55, I will wear a Speedo all day long.
I don't think that's the incentive
I don't know if that's going to attract trucks.
Okay. I will find some chicks with Speedos. There we go.
Okay.
Yes.
And by the way, the churches there are not very nice.
That's why we're going to bring in the Church of Harmon to up the average of Carlisle. August 3rd through the 5th. There's still time to register, pre-register at a discount.
We're going to try and do multiple podcasts during Carlisle as well, possibly a morning and an afternoon or a morning and an evening one.
Yep.
So if you want to get on one of these, hey, kitty cat, want to get on some of these, be Facebook famous for 5 minutes, we'll probably do some of those at Carlisle. So if that's any incentive to show up, by all means, come on down.
Don't bring your truck.
A whole bunch of side ties all at the same place at the same time.
You can show up and have a shot with me.
Well, yes, there'll be mass and Harmon bombs all weekend.
Yes, sir.
Out there on July 5th, I'll be a official 20-year owner.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's your anniversary.
All right. I think we should wrap that up right there.
All right. This concludes our meeting. Thank you guys for watching. It's been great.
See you
until next time. 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
Peace.